Hello, and welcome to this Saturday Streamline Dev stream, or rather Streamline Design stream. I was planning to start development, but I'm not really feeling like coding today, so I figured we'd tackle a bit more design exploration for Streamline and see what we can come up with, see what we can design for actually a tool for designing stuff, which is the tool for designing the playback system, like the playback display. So I think that will be quite a interesting and fun thing to work through because it's going to be potentially quite complex, quite advanced maybe. So we'll see what we can come up with. So here we have the sort of thing that we want to be able to stick in, and what we're going to do is got Q and the scene. Change that. Be Q. Got playback this. Right. So we have our first pass at what you could actually stick on, and then our second pass was to simplify it down where you can have a label, an image, playback bar, and a background. So what we're going to do so we want basically to have a preview, and that on that preview you can throw in labels, you can throw in images. So let's actually move over to the iPad and take a look at things down there. I'm going to bring up a fresh linear document and bring up the iPad. The iPad is not displaying. Why is the iPad not displaying? Hmm. Interesting. Oh, is it because? No, it just doesn't seem to let me. Curious. I add a new... Right, can I bring it up in QuickTime? New movie recording. Operation could not be completed. Curious. Yeah, the operation could not be completed. Okay. So I guess we can't do that unless I can... Can I do it as a display capture? I cannot. Okay. Oh well. I guess we won't be able to do that. I'm assuming I'm probably going to need to restart to get that working again. But that seems to not be an OBS issue. That seems to be either a macOS or iPadOS issue. So let's... So what I'm imagining is at the top, you're probably going to have like a preview area where you can actually preview it. And then down the bottom, you're going to have your various bits and pieces. You could have that where you have it at the top. You've got previewing at the bottom. I mean, let's get rid of this and add that. So what we need, first of all, is a preview area. You're also going to need well, things that you can add. So a library, which is going to contain your label, image, playback bars. Then what we want is specters, where you can actually move stuff around, change properties of them, and so on. And for inspectors, you're going to need like positioning, and attribute, or styling, and content. Now, the inspectors potentially could just be as popovers. I mean, there are two ways of doing it. The preview is literally just a preview. You cannot change it at all. The other option is that it is WYSIWYG. So put stuff on, you can drag it around and position it. Now the thing with WYSIWYG is that it is more complex to implement. Because what we could have is you could have preview at the top. Down here you have the items in the display as a list, and at the bottom you can add new items. And then this area is basically your inspector area, where you can change various things in there. Or the entire area here is a WYSIWYG thing. We have a library of things at the bottom, and to actually get an inspector up, you click on stuff. Oh, I suppose you could have, you could have it be quite a bit smaller. You could have it resizable, but the problem with inspectors is resizable inspectors are a bit of a pain, so it's always nice to have them fixed where possible. I'm going to be moving that way with Coppice eventually. So have it be WYSIWYG, and then have popovers would allow me to make it fixed. I mean, what would you need to do for WYSIWYG? You need to move it around. I mean, the key thing is defining the positioning. Because sizing, we've done resizing in Coppice. You can do resizing easily. But positioning, I mean, for example, if you had this thing here and you wanted it to be, I mean, I suppose that is a key thing. Do you want it to be resizable? Or do you instead just want to say, use a springs and struts thing where you're saying, I want this to be so far from this edge and so far from this edge. Let's zoom in a bit so you can see a bit better. So what you would say, in fact, if I create a new thing, I can draw over this. Let's use a blue. And let's use a bright yellow. So what you could say, effectively, is I want because that is shift that to the top. So what you could effectively say is I want this to be so tall, so wide. I'm going to have it fixed X points from there, fixed X points from there, and I don't care about the other bits. This one is going to be the same, but it's going to be fixed to there and fixed to there. So you're basically pinning it at the X and Y. You can pin it to the left, to the right. For the overall, like for these ones, you can pin it to the center. For this, you're basically pinning left, right, top, bottom. I mean, we could do it as stack views. Now let's just do basic positioning. So you're going to have, so in terms of your positioning, right. So you can, for horizontal, you can be tied to the left, the right, or center. Now you can be left and right. Now really, if you want something to be full width, you just make it center and make it the same width, because we're not going to make this resizable. It's going to be, you set the size, and if you resize it, then from resize. So that could just be centered, and vertical is just going to be top, middle, bottom. So you're tying it to something, and then there's going to be a width and a height. So we just do that as positioning, then that works. Okay. Because then for WYSIWYG, if you're in the top left corner of the thing, then it ties to the top left. If you're in the bottom left, it ties to the bottom left. So that would do all the positioning. If you're in the center, it could snap to the center. Okay, so let's do WYSIWYG, because then it becomes a lot simpler. So we can delete that, bring that down to there, group the notes. And what I'm going to do, the first thing we're going to do is add a rectangle. Now the height, say 120. Width, let's make it now this isn't going to stay color because the actual color we want it is probably going to be probably that color, and then we're going to do a drop shadow, not using the global light. We're going to go up by 90, and that just adds a stroke at the top. If we going to do the show scene details bit. I'm going to take that out and stick that there. So that's hidden. Because what we want to add is an equivalent up here, which is going to be background. And what the background color is going to do is we're going to take our layer here, go into Xcode, and let's drag across a drag across color well. Let's choose system green just because it's a nice-ish color. We probably won't use this exact color well. I may bring the one over from Coppice, but you're going to be able to change the background color, and that becomes important because if you're streaming, you may want translucency. So you'll be able to make this bright green, or whatever color you use, and then chroma key it out. Right, so I mean, I am wondering whether you could have library, what's in the scene, and then the fixed inspector. So the inspector will be a fixed size, and then it's like this middle thing of what's in the scene, these sizes. Because it would be useful to be able to see a list of what is in the scene. Okay, well, we can have. You're going to have, when you start off, for a new scene, it's just going to be a white box. Inside, you can have black text that just says song title. Artist. Right. Now we can. Hmm. Got the current time. Got length. So you'll have something like that. Which then you'll be able to customize. Now I'm thinking it would be nice to be able to have it, we could have a checkbox so it shows what the actual text will be, like based off, like just pick a random song or whatever's currently playing and display that. Now you see the library is going to need to yeah, so you're going to have the library, which is going to have let's get rid of, we're going to have this with a, let's say, a 10 pixel. That's 120, that's equivalent to 60, so if we do 96 by 96, that should be a 48 by 48. What we can do, oh yeah, 96 by 96 by 10. Go. So that is going to be white. Stroke it black on the outside. But let's bring add an inner shadow of white. And just a bit of a drop shadow. Bubble like there. And it'll actually show up better if picked like a colour like that. Oh, that's not. Oh. Change that colour. Be able to see that. Hey Sinister, how are you doing today? Good, that's good to hear. I am currently working on some more design for Streamline. So one of the features is going to be the ability to create a custom playback thing. So that you can like do a like pop this out as a window, do a window capture and stuff like OBS, and actually just stream it, like put it into your stream overlay or something. So we're building how you would actually go about like creating that. So I've basically decided it's going to be like a WYSIWYG thing. So you'll be able to drag things out of the library down here, and then when you click on them, there will be a popover that comes up with the inspector. So I'm just coming up with what the library is going to look like. You're going to have text. Let's just pick like a, for now, that's going to be image. So since I was actually starting to learn Blender earlier before the stream. Not really doing much, just following the tutorial, learning how to do basic stuff like move around the viewport and edit like a few vertices and stuff like that. So it's been quite interesting. It's a tutorial where basically you're going through and building a donut, but so learning that because I figure learning like Unity is going to be a lot easier for me to learn because it's just programming stuff. But Blender's going to take a lot longer and requires me watching videos and stuff like that. So it's something that I can't really do on stream. So instead, I'm watching, I can do it off stream, learn some videos, and then once I get to a certain point, then I can start streaming it and actually building stuff for the spaceship, the robot, and everything for the stream. Hmm. Not really liking this. What if we just got rid of that, got rid of that. We took our stuff here, made it fill the whole thing. Actually, no. Leave that on, but we're gonna shrink it down. Then we're going to take this, shift it down, and what we're probably going to do is bring up SF symbols. I'm not sure whether I'm finding it intuitive at this point. I've only really gone through like some basic stuff. There's definitely a lot to learn. I think the hardest thing for me so far is just navigating around the viewport, because it's all like middle mouse button stuff, where I'm used to, like, if I want to zoom in, it's Command Shift. If I want to move around, I just hold the Shift key and move around. So there's a bit of a coming from Photoshop and various other 2D tools, it feels odd using the middle mouse button. I'll probably get used to it, but yeah, it's not too bad. It's just learning how to do something by following a tutorial is one thing. Being able to do something of your own is another thing. Now, I should be able to do it because I've done that sort of thing before. I wouldn't have any... Probably don't. Don't have... unless... Yeah, doubt it. Yeah, the problem is most of the stuff that I have done in 3D was that long ago. That's interesting. Yeah, it's that long ago that I don't actually have any of it anymore, unfortunately. Oh, saying that, I have just found stuff. Okay. Okay, so let's open some of these up. Now, bearing in mind, the date on these is October 2003. But this is basically what I was trying to do for a point and click game. Oh, this was all done in Strata 3D. Which is still around. And I believe I actually have a copy, but it doesn't run because, like a lot of software, they decided, 32-bit stuff will stick around for a long time, and then it didn't. But yeah, this was sort of a point-and-click adventure. So you can see here when I've gone from here and added the stuff in at the top, stuff where you're just looking around. And I think these are all mostly like textures and stuff that came with the app, and it's not all that advanced because you've just got a bunch of cylinders with a half sphere on top, and it's all very geometric except for the rocks and stuff, but that is mostly just meshes, I think, that I was like manipulating and so on. I mean, now I know I have these, it could actually be quite interesting. Because I actually had this this entire plan here for what you need to do, and there were going to be lots of things for working out the various like the various puzzles and stuff like that. But I mean, potentially it could be quite interesting to try and recreate this in Blender as sort of a practice thing, just this entire thing that I built, and see, like, with the advancement of computers in 20 years and whether my skills have got better over 20 years. We'll see, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, this was like 2003. This was when it got to the point where when you got radiosity in to get soft shadows and stuff on ray tracing, and they were introducing stuff like that, and that was the big new thing. It may have been a bit earlier that they added radiosity, but it was like in the higher end thing, so it's like the renderer could actually do all the soft shadows and much better. It was, I think it was still ray tracing, but it's much better in terms of soft shadows, much better in terms of like reflections and refraction and stuff. But yeah, this is, I've been doing like I say, 3D stuff for a long time, but I haven't done it for a long time. So I know all the basics, I know how it works, and I mean, I know a bunch of the maths behind it, or at least I understand the basics of the maths. I don't remember most of the algorithms and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, I think I've actually got a book somewhere on computer graphics that goes through. But is it this one here? 3D computer graphics. Oh wait. Yeah, mathematical functions, representations, modeling of three-dimensional objects. And there's stuff on rendering and how you actually do array cast and stuff like that. Alright, 167. You have clips, how you do specular reflections and stuff. So I've actually got a book that goes through all of this. Geometric shadows, global illumination, radiosity, that's what I was talking about. Ray tracing strategies, the basic ray tracing algorithm. Or 3. Yeah, so stuff for doing like basic ray tracing. Because if I understand it, I believe ray tracing itself is not that complex to implement. Like, it's certainly not trivial, but as a basic concept, ray tracing is not that difficult. The difficult bit is doing ray tracing fast, doing it efficiently, and adding all stuff like textures and bump maps and all the various tricks you do on. But if you've just got a mesh and you're doing ray tracing on it, then you can do it fairly well. But for example, if you're doing ray tracing, there's a question of, is something visible or not? If something is not visible, then you want to ignore it. But if something is not visible from the camera, like it's maybe obscured by something, maybe the light is still hitting it and that is scattering off, causing other stuff. So there's lots of complexities that you need to do with ray tracing, and like how much work you put into like the accuracy, how you deal with reflections and refractions and so on. So yeah, it's been it's one of those books that I bought at university because it said you need it for the course, and never used it. I still haven't read through it. I think in my entire university degree, there's only one textbook that I ever actually read and used, and that was for more of a maths class. I really should go through some of my book collection at some point and give them a read. I've got so many programming books that I just haven't read, or rather I've started reading and never really finished and never really got anywhere with them. So anyway, I think what we're going to do here is we're going to have a pro text semi-bold. That's going to be 9. So this is going to be a plus button here, and that's just going to pop up a menu to let you add something new. And the other option is to have it down here, but then you've got like the playing next. I don't want to hide the playing net. This is the annoying thing. You've got the playing nets in here, and that's where you would normally put inspectors, but I don't want to put them there. Let's just go this way for now. And what you're going to be able to do is just drag these around and it will position. You'll be able to do it a bit more tightly. And the things you'll be able to add are playback bar, labels, images, and possibly boxes. And the white thing is going to be a box, but it's going to be one that you can't delete. It's going to be like the base box. If you want to delete it, as it were, and make it invisible, then you just make it a color that you can key out. Same color as the background color. So I think in terms of adding stuff, that's fine. In terms of dragging stuff around, we're good. Because it would be good to have something like an interface builder where you've got your view here. It would be good to have this outline view so you can see things, change the ordering of things, whether the front or the back, whether they're in a box or out of a box, move them between boxes and so on. Do we want to make it that complex? Probably not. That's probably like a more advanced thing that we can add later. You just add things on. Things don't go in boxes, they go over boxes, and we can have buttons down here for example, placing these tokens with either what's currently playing or just a random song in your playlist. Buttons to bring things to the front and back. So you're going to have a full-on toolbar down here effectively for because bring things forward, bring things back. And then, yeah, we can have inspector on. Okay, so I'm going to take a short break and go and make myself a cups of tea that I had today. 1, 2. That's my third one. I'm gonna make myself another cup of tea and nip to the loo. And when we get back, we'll start working on the inspectors and what they're going to look like for various bits and pieces, because that'll be something fun. So I will see you all in probably about 5-10 minutes or so. We may go till about 4:30, maybe even 5-ish today, depending on how I'm feeling. But yeah, so I'll take a break and I will be back in about 5-10 minutes. Okay, I am back and ready to get back to work. So we switch back over and going to now start working on Inspector. So what we're going to, let's tidy some of our layers up. So this is the toolbar. Have progress bar. Background. Down. Else this is preview. So I think what we will do is let's 18 points. That'll there we go. Right, so I'm not going to go through all the hassle of making a full-on popover. What we're going to is we'll just make something 400 by 300. I'm actually really looking forward tonight because tonight is, as someone on my Twitter feed put it, Twitter Christmas. Because it is Eurovision, which is usually the best night of the year on Twitter. It is where Twitter gets to be at its peak, being snarky and possibly a bit too snarky at times, but it gets to be snarky, be in awe, just be hilarious, and occasionally you also get some good songs. And the other thing that's very interesting to me, and very peculiar being British, is that we actually have a good song this year. And not as in, oh, better than our usual fare, because our usual fare gets us in like the bottom 5. And last year got us the first country to ever get nil point from both the jury and the audience. But this year, I mean, I believe initially all the bookmakers had put us in the top 5, and after the performance in rehearsals, which the juries used to base their votes on, they moved us up to 2nd in the odds, which again is really weird. But it's like, normally we like second from the bottom or the bottom. But this year we have, like, I was playing it yesterday. It's I believe number one on iTunes at the moment. There's a website I go where you can buy all sorts of sheet music from, and it is the second best-selling sheet music on there at the moment. It is a genuinely good song, and they haven't done anything like ridiculous. Well, they've done something ridiculous with the staging of it, but it's ridiculous in a good way. So it's just one of those things that hopefully it will do well. Now, I'm not being British, I'm not going to have my expectations. My expectations, hopefully, we're on the left side of the scoreboard this year. And that's how low expectations are in Eurovision as a Brit, in that, yay, we've come in the top half. But genuinely, it is going to put to the test the whole Eurovision thing of it's all political. Because if it's all political, the UK will finish really low again. If it isn't all political, the UK should finish very high, because this song is, well, in my opinion, it's the best one we have sent since 1997, which is when we last won it. I haven't seen France's yet. But yeah, the ridiculous performances are great. But I haven't seen France's yet. I've seen Spain's. I saw, was it Latvia, who got voted out with the completely ridiculous lyrics. I've seen Finland. Finland is sort of probably second for me. And it was just like one of those things of seeing who people have sent. And a lot of the time, it's people who you haven't necessarily heard of, especially from the UK. I mean, the person we're sending this year is like one of the most famous singers on TikTok, apparently. I'd never heard of him before, but he's good. But then I saw Finland, and it's like, who have Finland sent? Oh, they've sent the Rasmus. That's a name I haven't heard since the early 2000s. So it's like, oh, you're sending someone who pretty much like everyone, especially around Europe, will know them. And I mean, it's great when you send people that people know, but you have to send a good song, because we have sent. Can't remember his first name. Something Humperdinck. Who has sold millions of records. We sent Bonnie Tyler, who has sung possibly one of the most Eurovision songs ever that would not actually work for Eurovision, which is Total Eclipse of the Heart. And didn't do well. I mean, the last time we finished the top 5 was when we actually had Andrew Lloyd Webber write the song. So it's like I think a lot of it is just people like good songs, and yes, there is some tactical, like political voting, but you've got to send a good song. And from what I've seen from a lot of people is they're actually surprised that like the big 5, so France, Italy, Spain, the UK, and Germany. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen Spain's and the UK's, but apparently they've all sent very good songs this year, where a lot of the times it can be kind of don't really send anything that is that much. So yeah, I'm excited to see that, because there's an outside chance we could actually win, which is very unusual in any environment as a Brit. Because normally the expectation as a Brit is that you invent something, spread it around the world, and then get your ass kicked. See, for example, cricket, football, I mean, rugby. I mean, pretty much any sport, really. About the only one that we don't get our ass kicked in is probably like snooker, but that's because not many other countries play it. Yeah, I mean, hopefully this year will be a good year. I mean, the last year that I've seen lots of Eurovision. I missed it last year and 2019 for various reasons. But the last one I saw was actually one that I remembered massively, which was 2018, which was a fantastic year because it's like everyone decided, you know what? Let's write absolutely fantastic songs. Like some of them were still ridiculous, and I don't think any of the really good songs won. But there are so many songs from that year that I have playing. I've got like Eurovision playlist where I stuck it on, and most of the songs are from 2018. So that's my favorite year that I've seen in a while. But I think it's nice that it's called Eurovision, but it's one of those things that the entire world, well, a large part of the world is getting into it. I mean, it hasn't just been Europe for a while. You've got countries that are in Asia that are competing. You've got countries like Israel that are competing. Then you bring Australia in, and I think it should just literally be a case of if you really want to, sure, join. I mean, if you enjoy it and you want to contribute, and you got the culture, and you want to put some funding in and stuff, then sure, why not? Let them join because it isn't serious. Like there is some seriousness to it, but nobody say it's not like a serious. Oh, with it's this country versus this country, and it's just like everyone's just like let's have a good time. Every country that one year they'll put something that is completely and utterly ridiculous, and everyone makes fun of it, but the next year they'll put out an absolute banger of a song. So it's just one of those things of it's fun. Right, so what we want for a label, bring our notes up and put our notes at the top. And let's make our notes black. Right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a segmented control, and this is a trick. Uh, Anyone who's watching this now or on the VOD, this trick got into this week's iOS Dev Weekly, and it's something that's blown a lot of people's minds. The tweet went a little bit viral in the Mac and iOS community, which is if I go here and I do content, style, position, and I'm going to make fill equally. Uh, 5. I want to make it all. There we go. So what I've been doing in the past is I'll take a screenshot of this, bring it over to Photoshop, and you bring it in, but then if you depending on where you want to do it, you then need to cut out all the stuff, and that leaves bits and pieces there, and it doesn't have all the correct transparencies and stuff. What I discovered completely by accident, because what I meant to do was take a screenshot to the clipboard where you do Command Shift 4, you hold down Control and you drag over and you bring it over. And I was meant to do that. I completely blanked and just went Command C to copy it and then moved over and Command V to paste. Now you cannot see this here, but if I shift it over, we have our segmented control with the full transparency that it should have. And that is like blew my mind quite a bit that it's, oh, we've somehow managed to like they've added that feature and I've stumbled across it and next to nobody knew it existed, and it is like life-changing in the sense if you're doing this sort of stuff, because suddenly you have access to all of these controls and you can bring them in and they all have the correct transparencies and stuff, so they'll look right. So for example, I can change here, I can change the color of this popover and it correctly adjusts everything behind it. Whereas if I'd just done a screenshot and brought it in, it wouldn't have done that. So what we're going to do, so we're going to do content. Now, you can have text content, or you can have image content. So for image content, what we're going to have is it's literally just going to be, I mean, I'm probably going to take it from Coppice, the view where we will get rid of the fill, we will add a stroke, that's a fair point. Can't remember how you do a stroke with dashes, but it will be something in here, and it'll be like 50%, and it will basically be, when I go in here, create an image page, this. So I'm just going to be adding this here into here. That will be for image content. For text content, we're going to actually have something different. We're going to have a text field. Always do that. I always bring up Spotlight when I want to do this. So we'll copy that, paste it in. Pick this. So shift that along. So you're going to have your text there, but below it, what we're going to do is, and again, done spotlight. Let's token view. Do song name. Artist. Album. Current time. Time remaining. Length. And we can have those in. And what we're going to do, get rid of Joe's background. I'm going to copy that. Paste it there. Yes, actually. That. Close enough. Let's. You're going to be able to drag these items up. Now, I probably won't use an actual. I'll probably make this a bit different. Maybe it'll be a list of things and there'll be descriptions of what it does and examples. But the idea is you're going to have something down here where you can drag them up to here to set the content. So that is content. Next, we want, let's do position, because position is going to be the same for everything. And I think for position, it's going to be quite, in fact, let's, yeah, so we're going to have, oh, oh, now, what I'm thinking is let's right, so I'm going to colour that blue, but then put a outer on. Or you can do this, and then what I want to do is anchor point 5, anchor point there. Oh, there's a hotkey to be able to switch to the convert tool, but I can't remember what it is. Switch back to the convert tool. Oh, shoot. Let's right. So I need to add, well, so let's convert this. And then what we're going to on uh, let those. That. Right, so what we can do here is we vertical. Again, we can push it down, down. And I want to select this. So we could potentially have it look like this. What this will do is could have gray and the stroke. Then we can set this to as. So then it's horizontally like. See, that's a problem. The horizontal and vertical alignment options really mess with. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I think what maybe we need is you're going to have vertical, you're going to have horizontal, and you're going to have size. So what you're probably going to have is something left center. Right, you're going to have that there. Okay. Then what you'd have this. So if you wanted it looking like, what's that be, right middle, then you select right. That would be, say, 10 point. Those would all be disabled. what can instead what we can do is paste this in. Row text. 11 point white. Like this, you'd have horizontal. Or oh shoot, I was meant to get a glass of water with my cup of tea. I'll be back in 1 minute. Just grab a glass of water. I've had an idea. It is going to require this is just going to be about the position, not the size. Size we can potentially put in style or content. Possibly content, because with the size, it can be you could set a fixed size, you could say based on the content. But yeah, so we'll probably stick that, but I've had an idea which we will try out once I get back with a fresh glass of water. So see you in a minute or so. Okay, let's get back into this. So, the idea I had, basic segmented, and you see why I've called it basic segment. What if, so I want the rectangle tool to oh, it is Okay. Alright, so what if this filled white, let's fill white, and actually, let's get rid of this one for now. So the actual fill is going to be really light. Then we want a stroke. Like that. But then what we want over it are 2 more strokes. And I'm going to change my Stream Deck at some point. So at the moment, I've got my Stream Deck set up with various pages. And I think what I want to do, rather than having pages, is have a root page that is just a list of apps, because I don't want it to be specifically app, like just focused just on apps. But I think what I may end up doing is have it where I have like the root screen is a list of apps, and then I can go down into the app and then just go up and down rather than having to keep pressing left and right, because I've got it set up. I mean, I can show you what I currently have. So this is my main streaming one, and I can go along to Xcode, go along to Photoshop, go along to Affinity, but the thing is I'm probably going to be adding Blender onto there. Maybe Unity will get its own page, and there'll be other pages as well. And it's just one of those things of, if I do the page thing, I'm losing 2 things in the bottom left, bottom right. Whereas if I do the folder thing, then I'm only losing in the top left. So I'm losing 2 on most of my pages, whereas I could be losing 1. And like if I want to get to Affinity, I've got to go 1, 2, 3. And if I want to get back to streaming, it's 1, 2, 3. Whereas it would be, if I was in streaming, it would be up, Affinity. So 1, 2. And it's always 2 away, effectively. So I'm probably going to tweak that, because especially with Blender and seeing all the hotkeys, it's like going through the tutorials and making notes of, okay, that would be good to have on the Stream Deck. That would be good to have on the Stream Deck. I tried so hard when I started streaming to not just go and buy a Stream Deck. And now I've got a Stream Deck, I'm having to try so hard not to go and get the Stream Deck XL. Because I feel like it's 20. I feel like it would actually be useful to have that additional space, because the XL, right, you have a 5x3 grid, and on the XL it's an 8x4. So you're getting what? An additional 5, 12, an additional 17? Have I done that right? 15. Yeah, 15 versus 32. Yeah, you're getting more than double. Like, it's more than just getting the second Stream Deck. So, yeah, part of me kind of wants to get a Stream Deck XL and maybe use the XL and this Stream Deck. I am pondering what to do when I get when I switch over to having a 3D character, and whether I just use like a PlayStation controller for that. Or whether I do like keyboard and mouse, but have it where I can just press a button and it will switch the controls over to inputting in the game. So I can use keyboard and mouse to move around or something. So, but it seems a bit inelegant to have to reach over for a game controller and then reach back for everything else. So we'll see. Right. So what my idea is, I think shift over a bit. Yeah, I mean, with a 3D character, the two things that people are doing, you've got the controller, or you have like motion tracking and stuff like that. Now, I don't want to go down the motion tracking route because that's a bit beyond. Like, I want to put effort in, but it's like that sort of thing doesn't really interest me as much as just building something fun and interesting. But just having the control will be annoying, but being able to press a button on the Stream Deck and then just start using keyboard and mouse to move around could be interesting. I mean, part of me thought of, is it the tour box? Something like that, just at the side that I can flick over to and use or something. I'm not really sure how I'll control it. I mean, keyboard and mouse would be the simplest thing because it's one less. If I just have that, I don't need the controller on my desk then. But we'll see how things go. So what I'm planning with this is you would have left, center, right, then it would be horizontal. Then we probably won't even add that. Just say 20 point. That. Okay. So you could do it like that, and then the way it would work is we would take something of that. In fact, what we can do is get that, and then we get rid of that, and go there, and I want to find text edit so I can get system purple color, which is that. And then I want to paste that in. So you could basically select like that. So you choose left, center, right. We don't even need it to be this big. But then on the other one, we did this as horizontal. You could do top, middle, bottom, and you're basically going to pick these, shift that up. With like a controller being less necessary for the character because you won't be doing directional facial expressions. Yeah, I have wondered about that. I mean, the character wouldn't be like I could have the eyes move around, but the expressions would be more switching modes essentially. So yeah, it would be more switching modes. So I'm not sure because I just need to be able to move around because I mean in terms of the setup, you've got to think about a lot of different things. So you've got to think about, okay, when I'm in this mode and I'm just working, what exactly is going on? Well, what I would have is sort of in the bottom here, where my character is, I would have a block, and that would be almost like a screen, because the whole idea I'm going for is that my robot's on a spaceship, and there are cameras around the spaceship, and they are using them to speak to you. And they'd be here, and maybe they come up, and maybe they'll be a bit like quite a bit closer, so their face will be taking up a lot more of the screen. You'd still be able to see some stuff behind, but their face will be taking up a decent chunk of the screen. But I'd be able to move back, move forward, and so on. I'd want to be able to move back into the room and interact with stuff in there. And I'm imagining having like the way I'm imagining it is, in fact, I can draw it if I do. This is the basic layout that I'm thinking of. So you're going to have you're going to have something here, and on the rear thing, there's going to be like a console, which is where you're speaking from, and effectively you're going to have your camera there looking in. And then what you're going to have is going to go forward like this, and then you're probably going to have a curved thing there. You're going to have a control thing here with a chair that can sort of slide on a track. And then in the middle here, there's going to be a table. And then this is just going to be like big window, maybe with a pillar in the middle or something like that, so that you can see out. But this table is going to be like a holographic table. So you're going to be able to go to it and things will appear on the table. But I will be able to move around, interact with the table, interact with stuff over here. But the idea is that you're going to be looking out, and in terms of redeems and stuff like that, the idea is you'll be able to redeem going to different locations. And what locations could you go to? Well, you could go to Earth, Mars, go to the Sun. You could go to a strange, distant world. We could pick sci-fi worlds that randomly appear. You could go and visit the James Webb Space Telescope. Just things like that. I mean, I would have to check with Doig about this, but one idea I had was one of the worlds you could go to is a planet that is just a planet with a single island and an airship constantly going around it. And there'd be sort of cartoon representations, so like all the proportions would be completely off and everything on them. But you could do that when people come and raid. You could go to like Red Alert or have them like appear on a view screen or something like that. So that would be something that would be quite fun to try. And then in terms of like redeem like switching where we are in space. Other redeems could be having things break on the ship. So I have to go and repair things on the ship. So stuff like that potentially. Or potentially it could be things break on the ship and chat can redeem fixing them. Another thing is change the style of my character's face. So you've got this face now, but it could be like a black and green, like an old school terminal window. It could have pixelated versions. Now, the complexity there is one thing I want to do with the character, and this is something where potentially this may be the area that I potentially would do something like facial tracking or something like that, is I'd like to have the mouth move. Now, the mouth moving and flapping is easy enough. But if I wanted it to be like mouth shapes or something like that, that would be a lot more complex. I'd like to try doing like 2D animation of various bits so I could add a bit more expression to the face. But then if I do that, then I've got to do like pixelated versions of that and so on. So I can't do it too much if I want to have like redeems where you change, basically changing the desktop theme of my robot, essentially. But when the robot is there and a lot more interactive, the robot can have an animation that comes up when someone follows or someone subscribes. So, and I do want to try something in terms of like some sort of game in here for chat to play, especially on sort of like the be right back screen or the getting started screen. Have it where a game comes up and chat can come in and actually play a game. I'd have to come up with something that chat can play. Finite Singularity's Chalk Boom is fantastic as a game that chat can play on stream. Because you've got to deal with the latency, and it's part of the game trying to judge the lag and the latency and everything. So I think having those interactive elements, I mean, this is the whole reason I wanted to go down the 3D route, is for those interactive elements. So it's coming up with what they can be. Because, like I said, the obvious ones are changing the planets, like changing where we are, having like the character change, because William's color changing dragon sort of inspired me for that one, and then just having some sort of like interactive game or something in there would be cool. So yeah, we'll see what goes on. But I think going down like the spaceship route just gives a lot of cool and interesting stuff, and especially as things start being built out. Can you throw things at me? So that is something that I have pondered, because that seems to happen on a lot of streams. And I've thought about that. It may be something that when I'm in a focus mode you can't, but when the camera sort of pans out a bit more, you can. But then the issue is what happens with redeems and stuff like that. One interesting thing I have thought about with that is that it could combine with something else that could be fun, which is allowing chat to enable and disable gravity. So if you throw something at me and gravity's on, it's like, oh, I'll like slide over a bit. But if gravity's off, I can start pinging up into the air and start floating around. I mean, having chat being able to control whether gravity is on or off is definitely something that makes a lot of sense in this spaceship idea. And in theory, shouldn't be too hard, because that's mostly just physics, like basic physics simulation in Unity anyway, is the gravity. So hopefully that shouldn't be too difficult to do. But yeah, it's definitely what I want to do. I mean, it's one of those things of there's so many ideas. I'm building it bit by bit. I mean, one thing I may start doing is I may start building it before I am like fantastic at Blender, because I can just have a little cube for my character and I just make something very blocky and get the actual stuff working, and then I'm just then ending up bringing in assets bit by bit. Like if it's very much a blocky thing with just very basic geometry in there, then I can get started a lot easier. And then when it gets to stuff like rigging the character up and stuff like that, then I can add that stuff in later. But getting it where I've got a character moving around, interacting, I've got the camera stuff set up. I mean, so one thing I'd actually thought of, which would actually be pretty good as a starting point, because the character is probably going to be the most complex part, is when I first do this, I'm focused on building out the scene. And the character is just a plane. And I just have the 2D representation that I have on the plane, except I do like a version that is from the back. So they can sort of move forward, move backwards, and they sort of just shuffle side to side. Or I could even do it as a cube and just have like the front, the side, the back, and so on. And it's just this cube going around with just textures on the side as the alpha version. when I'm playing around. Because then it will look effectively the same when I'm close up and actually speaking, but it's just an amusing sort of I'm 2D in 3D space sort of effect. So that may be what I go with at first, because then I can start making it a lot more interesting to begin with and play around with things a lot more. And the fact is, it will have that jankiness that will be funny. Because like I said, the Unity side of it is probably going to go a lot faster than the Blender side of it, because I'm a programmer. I know how to program. I have used Unity before. I need to remember how to do it, but I'm not going to have to be looking up tutorials that often. It's like I'll need to look up tutorials for certain things, but then it's like, oh, the movement stuff. Well, I know all the geometry and all stuff like that. I can do all the calculations. It's like I know enough about that side to be able to get a few bits of information and build on it fairly quickly. Whereas the Blender side, I'm effectively starting from scratch there. I know some of the basics, but Blender works very differently to what I've had before. So this is another option that we have. Would have but yeah, once I get Streamline to a decent position, I'm going to start really working on that. Because like I say, if I get it to a point where it's actually better and more interactive than what I have now, I might as well go for it. Because at the moment, it's just a flashing thing in the bottom. So I can make it a lot better than that. You could do top, middle, bottom. Okay, so I don't like this. It's a good idea to begin with. What if... what if we did it as a grid of... Oh, don't worry, since that I'll be asking you for stuff like I'll be doing a lot of the Blender stuff on stream when it gets to like once I've learned enough of it, I'll be doing a fair bit on stream. So I will likely be getting some advice from you. Alright, what if I copied those? Paste those in. Hi Dragon Dust, how are you doing today? Actually, you may find this very useful if you haven't seen it before. I learned a new trick yesterday, or rather, I learned that Xcode has a new trick. So, have you, Dragon Dust, ever done this? You want to use some standard control or something, you want to bring it into some sort of UI edit, like an image editor or something, to either show it off or to do something. So you've just gone and you just take a screenshot and bring it over, And okay, that's great. But if you need to go and change the color of what's behind it, then it doesn't work correctly. What I learnt purely by accident on my stream on Wednesday is if you have some views selected and you copy it in Xcode, and this works for nibs, it works for storyboards. I believe it doesn't yet work for Swift UI previews, but if I paste it in, it looks pretty much the same, except it has alpha. It is just the controls. Nothing else is there. Right, put it over there. You can see it's fully alpha. So you can actually create UI elements in Xcode and just copy paste them into Photoshop, into Preview, into whatever you want. And I learnt that completely by accident the other day. But yeah, I am doing quite well. Just working on Streamline, trying to work out how exactly I want positioning work. Now thinking potentially of a grid. Oh, if that. So you could have a grid for positioning where if you want it you could say, okay, I want the distance from the top left or the top right or the bottom right or the middle center. So this would horizontally center it, but on the right. So you can basically say which position you want it in. And then you would have top, left, right, middle. No, top, bottom, left, right, and you could actually specify what they are, and it would enable and disable based on what you selected here. The other option could potentially be I mean, you could do this. But this could work fairly well because it's like it's either left, right, or you just click a box in the middle. Nah, but then what about top, bottom? Now, I think going the approach of this and then positioning is really hard. Wait, what on earth am I doing? I'm not doing resizing, so why does it matter whether it's from the top, like where it is? Like the text, you'd have the text and you would center, like put it in the middle, and if you center the text, then it's centered. If it's left aligned, it's aligned to the left, and it's always from the top. Alright. I have been overthinking this. So I don't need any of this. This can all go away. I've been thinking about this whole thing wrong. You're just going to have your X, your Y, and yeah, the X, Y. X, Y, width and height. Because again, this is not going to, like if you resize this, that's fine. It's not going to be dynamically resizable. And then, because the whole thing is, well, what if you want to have this text centered? Well, then you place it there, and then you just center the text in the area, and you make it the full width. I have been doing this too long today for a sunny Saturday. And as we've been going for about 2.5 hours, I think I probably will call the stream there, because when you do a lot of work on something and spend time working on it and coming up with lots of ideas, and then you realize, I don't actually need any of ideas, I could have done this the absolute simplest way possible, especially when you said to yourself earlier in the stream, you don't need any of that, you can do it the simplest way possible. It's generally a sign of you should give up for the day. So I think what I'm going to do is call the stream there, and probably I'm probably not going to stream tomorrow. I'll probably stream Monday, do a long stream again from probably about noonish UK time, and probably do like one of my long 5-hour streams. That lets me get a few bits of pieces done in the morning, and then I can spend all afternoon, and we will get this finished, because we can just get the position stuff in, and then the style just needs designing. Even then, we may not even need to design it, we could do that on the fly. So I think on Monday what we're going to do, as I've got this basic thing sort out, we are going to go and start building all this. And I may end up creating the project from scratch, or at least parts of it, like rip out the UI. But yeah, so we'll see how things go. But on Monday, we're going to start coding this properly. So until then, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Saturday and rest of your weekend. And as always, happy coding.